Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues. I even have friends in Colombo, and guys and girls. I think we got permission to say guys earlier on in the day. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. And by the way, before I give you any more information, we've all got our whiskey, yeah? So I thought, since I'm going to show you a little bit of background, that I might also, if we can get it up on this screen, give you an idea of where we come from up in Ireland. I'm Irish. Someone asked me earlier, was I Scottish? It's okay. Scottish is okay. If you'd asked me, was I English? Trouble, okay? So Scottish is okay. But I thought I might teach you a little bit of Irish. The only word I know in Sinhala is ayabon. Is that right? No, it's okay, not bad. But there's a little Irish word. If you want to lift your glass, whether you've got any left or not, lift your glass. In fact, you can stand up. I know you've already been standing. I mean, I came to sit. I'm just so pleased you're still here. So the little Irish word is called sláinte. Let's hear it after three. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so click the glass of someone at your table. In Irish, it just means cheers, your health. Sláinte. Off you go. Brilliant. Tonight, when you're out having a little drink, you can introduce that to your friends and colleagues. In Ireland, where I come from, we speak English, not very well, and but also in many parts of Ireland, we speak Gaelic or Irish. So we're a small company, but we have great aspirations, great ambitions. So we've actually trained in various parts of the world. In fact, we've probably trained in about 16 or more countries around the world over the last number of years. Having a slight problem with my doofer, or whatever you call it in Sinhala, but I call it a doofer, right? That'll do, won't it? So it doesn't seem to be moving the slides. Training and coaching since 2002. So it makes me quite old to think that I've been training and teaching for over 30 years. I am very old, believe me. Too old, far too old for this audience. So, but specifically in training and coaching since 2002. And also, 16 countries around the world, more than 16. But we've been working in Sri Lanka since 2011. My mother first came here in 2007, and she said, "Bill, you have to go to Sri Lanka." She said, "It's amazing." She went to India first. It was okay. Came to Sri Lanka, amazing. So she came and pioneered the way for me, and later my wife came as well to visit this beautiful place, Pearl of the Indian Ocean. And we come from Ireland, and we describe ourselves as the Emerald Isle. So I like to think of Sri Lanka and Ireland as precious stones in a wonderful necklace, right? So we're friends, we're brothers and sisters. So that gives you a little bit of background. So although I've been a priest, I've been a teacher, I've been a principal, I've been a professional storyteller, I've been a startup business person for not-for-profit, bringing women returners back into the workplace. I've done quite a few things in my life. I'll be 61 this year. I know, ancient dinosaur. I know what you're thinking. But I still feel like I'm 35 or 40, you know? And I know what you're thinking. You still look it. Thank you very much. I can read body language better than most. So if I was to put another year up for you to have a think about, by the way, my accent, I hope it's okay. It's Northern Ireland. I'm not from the southern part of Ireland. So I hope you can understand it as we go along. I'll try to speak slowly. Very difficult. Was there anyone here born before 1984? Quick show of hands. Thank God I've got some friends in the room. Not quite as old as me. I was born in 1958. 58, they even had televisions then, right? Was there anyone born after 1984? Did I say after or before? Was there anyone born in 1984? Stick your hand up. Wow, fantastic. So you were born in 1984, and I'm about to tell you what I was doing in 1984. It was an interesting year, as most years are, as every year is. And a number of things happened around the world that year. A few of them you may have heard of. But you can't see them, obviously. Not quite sure what's happened there. 1984, believe it or not, was the year when the National Cancer Institute in the United States announced that they had found the source of AIDS, became better known as HIV. That was 1984. It was 1984 that the Los Angeles Olympics took place in the United States. One of the reasons why it was notable is because the former USSR decided to boycott the LA Olympics. An interesting year. But it was also the year, tragically, that Indira Gandhi was assassinated by her closest guards, her closest bodyguards, 1984. And of course, the pinnacle of 1984 was whenever the Sri Lankan cricket team, when they used to be good. Sorry, I'm only joking. They're still wonderful. I still like the way Malinga bowls. But they came to the UK. They didn't come to Ireland. They missed out. They went to England instead and played a 5-day test with the English. Of course, we're Ashes mania at the moment. I'm taking my son next week to Old Trafford in Manchester to spend a day there. Actually, if you're interested, in 1984, the Sri Lankan cricket team drew the test with England, so they were slightly better then than they are today. But I'm sorry. So I keep slipping. Forgive me. But 1984, interestingly, there's a beautiful building, I hope you will agree, is the front building of the college where I trained. This is Stranmillis University College, Belfast, part of the Queen's University Belfast complex, one of the premier teacher training colleges in our small part of the world. And in 1984, I graduated as a teacher. I'd done other things before that, I have to admit, but I became a teacher. In 1984, all the graduates were brought together before the principal at that time, and he addressed us, as he did every year traditionally. And he said to us, he said, I envisage a time, I can see in the future, he said, a time when children, boys and girls, young people, won't have to go to school anymore. I mean, we're already thinking. They won't have to go to school anymore because they will learn, if they choose to, from their bedrooms. In 1984, we thought this man has been on drugs. There's something wrong with him. But of course, he was absolutely right, because that's exactly what people can. You can do your degree, you can do the whole shebang. Children in our schools are already doing work online that the teacher marks without seeing any books, and there's so much happening with technology. Agreed? A man who could see a time, a place, events that no one else could see at that time. I want you to watch this very short video capturing a sense of these unpredictable and volatile times that we're living in. You can have some more volume, please. So this new normal, this time that we are already entering into, have become part of, it's called the fourth industrial revolution. By the way, I know there's a lot of people here from HR. Can I just be honest and confess something I've said to hundreds of people here in Colombo when I've been involved with them? I said, you know what HR stands for? Human remains. And they tend to like that. The people who don't work in HR really like their HR department being described as human remains. But don't tell anybody I said that. I don't want them to get angry at me. So there's no doubt that this is a time of great disruption. I was going to show you this slide here because the gentleman I'm referring to who coined the phrase Fourth Industrial Revolution was called Klaus Schwab. He's the founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum. It's an era of connectivity. Do you think it's done this because I'm Irish? It's making my life difficult. So it's an era, the digital age, an era of connectivity, when things are connected and networks are growing and being made, and it's the way that things are going to work in the future, sometimes called the digital age. It's interesting that in the United Kingdom, in England and Wales, for example, recently the NHS, the National Health Service, which is a pillar of British state, something they're incredibly proud of, free healthcare for every citizen in the country, free at point of use. They've just recently announced a relationship, a connection with Alexa. So if you've got a really bad headache, you can ask Alexa, is this a migraine? And Alexa will tell you whether it's a migraine or not. And then you can ask Alexa, because Alexa will tap into the NHS archives and all of the information that's stored there, what can I take to soothe my migraine? And Alexa will tell you what treatment to give yourself. It's already happening. Just a small example of a different, connected fourth revolution world that we're living in. In fact, it won't be long, within the next decade, we'll be able to prescribe in our own homes and print 3D pills for various range of different illnesses and sicknesses. It's a different era. It's unlike any that came before it, but we need to be ready for it. And my focus, or my energy and my involvement in the work that I'm doing in training and coaching, is around trying to equip leadership to be able to embrace this revolution and to be able to maximize the time that we have within it. So there's no doubt it's a great disruption, sometimes being described as a brutal disruption. Just think of what it's like to live where I live. By the way, Sláinte. Oh, the rest of you have fallen out with me. Okay, Sláinte anyway. Boris Johnson asking the Queen for permission to form a government just about a month ago. And yesterday, he sought permission from the Queen to dissolve the British Parliament, probably so that people cannot object to his plans to get Britain, United Kingdom, out of the European Union by the 31st of October. Talk about disruption. Political, economic, societal, but you recognize that as well, don't you? It's not just in the United Kingdom. So there's no doubt it is a time of incredible disruption. So what can we do? What needs to be done? In what ways do leaders need to step up? If you're committed and involved in human resources and learning and development, how are we going to develop and train up the leaders that we need for this current era? Well, I'm using VUCA Prime because we take the word volatility and we replace it with vision. It's time for vision. It's a time to see a bigger picture outside of the city, outside of the country. Sampath's already been talking about this. It's a bigger, connected, interconnected world. And maybe you need to stop thinking about it just being this little island of 20 million people. There are only 8 million people who live on the island of Ireland. But why can't we dream bigger? Why can't we see ourselves as being part of a global family? Leadership needs to see it, embrace it, and communicate it with passion out to the organization, to the department, to teams, a clear and compelling purpose. What is our why? Why do we do this? Why does it matter? Why should anyone care? Interesting, we're working with a a school principal who was one of our leadership programs just a few months ago, and he brought his staff together to revisit why they do what they do. What was their vision? What was their purpose? What was their mission as an organization training hundreds of young people? You know what they decided after a day of discussion and laughter and thinking and challenging? They came up with something very simple. They said, our why, our vision is we believe in every child. I want my child at that school. I don't want to know about the percentages of how many A's and A stars. Okay, it's important. I want a teacher who believes in my grandchildren. My children are too old. You get me? We believe in every child. That's a clear and compelling why. And I want my child, or I want my grandchild, in that room with that teacher under that roof. And the third part of this is modeling an inclusive, expansive, societal, and global orientation. So I'd be interested to find out, what about those with disability? Can they be part of SHE? Can they take part in the activities? Are they part of this network that we're building across different genders, different orientations, different abilities? You get me? Does it include that? Because I think the generation that are occupying, for example, 80% of one of your biggest banks right now, millennials, are looking for an inclusive, societal, and even a global outlook. Is everyone invited? Or is it for the chosen few? Perhaps we could lead the way and share that kind of vision. Uncertainty is part of VUCA. We replace that with not uncertainty, but understanding. Key things, I think, for leadership needs to be part of all of our leadership development. Emotional and social intelligence. Okay, we need to know ourselves and get control of that before we can ever begin to understand the emotions of other people and positively influence those. I would say also it's essential as you think more globally, as you work across different regions, nations, cultures, areas, an increasing level of intercultural intelligence. Not everybody thinks the way we do. We're different in Ireland to the way you think about some things. But you know what? We're not better. We're not better. We're different. And we need to find an understanding. We create a level playing ground so that we know when we set deadlines and targets and all of that sort of thing, everyone knows what's meant. And everyone signs up to deliver. I think there are people in Gen Xers leading in organizations right now who are saying to people like me, what the hell are we going to do with this generation? They're not interested in work. They spend half the day on Facebook. They don't get it. They don't understand them. Surely we need leaders who stop criticizing Generation Generation Y and Generation Z who are coming hot on their heels. Stop criticizing them and start understanding them, because they're going to have to be led differently. They want to be part of something. They want to collaborate. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to be shown the way and follow that kind of leadership. We need to change how we're training leaders. And at least that's just my opinion based on my experience of not just here, but wherever I've traveled in the world. We need to see a different scope of leadership. And finally, I would say increasingly with turbulence and with volatility, with uncertainty all around us, we need to build in the techniques, the tools that are required for leaders in these times and in the months and years to come to be increasingly more resilient, to develop their own mental toughness, and to be a model of well-being. I actually don't agree with the idea that everything is just all mixed in together. I'm afraid the only thing that really matters at the end of the day, for me, is family and relationships. The rest of it's only work. You get me? But if I don't take care of the things that really matter in my life, I can't function at work. So I really believe we need to be putting in programs and putting in coaching support to help our leaders develop higher levels of resilience and mental toughness to deal with the turbulence, because it's not going to go away. It's here to stay. It's interesting, Klaus Schwab also said, we need leaders who are emotionally intelligent and able to model and champion cooperative working. They'll coach rather than command. They'll be driven by empathy, not ego. The digital revolution, the fourth revolution, needs a different, more human kind of leadership. Ironic, isn't it? With the increase of machines, we need a more human type of leadership. They're not mutually exclusive. We need both. We need a different kind of leadership. And last couple of points, and then I'm done. Rather than complexity, we talk about clarity. So, for example, look, especially with the millennial and Generation Z behind them, looking for authentic leadership where responsibility and accountability are embraced, are demonstrated. Also, purposeful, principled, values-driven. Leaders who are walking the talk, not carrying the qualifications and the certificates. Well done. Great job. But actually, I'm looking for the real thing. I'm looking for authenticity. We need leadership who occupies that space. And the final part of this is a clear and consistent in setting expectations. We still got to do all of this. Set expectations and admit it when they're changing so that the goals and objectives are clear and there's a focus on execution, delivery, results, and they go up whenever that focus is there. Final point really is that instead of ambiguity, we replace it with agility. A need for more agility and increasingly more agile leaders. A couple of points to highlight there as well. We need flexibility and a willingness to embrace the change and disruption. I'm going to say this because I might never be back. I may never be asked. But I was working with, I'll not mention the organization, with a group of managers who said to me, we are becoming more frustrated. We get it. But the people who are above us, the most senior people, are at the end of their careers. They've been there. They've done that. They're now in a place of, it's nearly there. They see the finish line. They don't want to do any of this. Does this make any sense to you? Am I talking nonsense? And it's causing frustration. It's causing demotivation. It's affecting morale. Some managers I met, it was a couple of years ago in a big program we were doing in another organization, said, Bill, we're at the edge. We're at the edge. We're being pushed so far that we don't know how much longer we can do this. We need to help these guys. We need to not be the problem, but be able to support them and set them free to get the job done. So we also need to recognize that increasingly fluid, virtual, remote teams. Interesting, I don't know if you're doing this in Shea, but I thought what a great idea that among your activities where you have teams broken down into smaller teams and they're working in different places, remotely, virtually, that actually they're having to come up with solutions and they're not even together because that's increasing the way people are working. They're not in the same place. They're not in the same room. They're not in the same city. They're in another country. They're in another time zone. Technological awareness, final point on leadership here. Listen, we don't need leaders who are super brain, ultra techie experts. But we need a certain level of savviness amongst the leadership community who are able to gather the right people around them. Great sign of leadership. People who bring better people around them than they are themselves. I was with a leader last Friday before I left Ireland. He said, Bill, don't tell anybody this. I'm telling you, but you won't tell anyone, right? There's only 3 or 4 of us here. I said, you're doing a fantastic job. They just spent another 30 million sterling on a new office suite, high-tech, 2,500 people. Part of a big global American organization, insurance industry, actually. He said, don't tell anybody. I don't actually do very much. He said, but what I have done, I've brought great people into all of the different areas where I need them, and then I've just said, go do it. That's leadership, isn't it? He's not trying to do it all. He's not trying to be, we have a saying in Belfast, it's a bit rude, but I'll say it anyway. He's not trying to be the dog's bollocks. Can't believe I said that. If my colleagues could hear me. What it means is, like the big chief, the top dog, the big man, the guy, He's not trying to be that. He's secure enough to bring great people around him, much younger than he is. Tell them what's needed. Give them the resources and the support, and then say to them, go do it. That's leadership. Finally then, my little doofer is gone again. There's the old kind of structures just don't work anymore, but there's people still trying to make them work. the silos, the kingdoms, the things that people rule over. You know, you've got HR, you've got purchasing, you've got finance, you've got sales, you've got technology, you've got IT. All of these silos, they're still here. And I don't just mean here. I mean, I see it as well in other parts of the world. The reality is that adaptability will always triumph over hierarchy. Hierarchy slows it down, creates more levels, decisions take longer, red tape gets in the way. People just want somebody to make a decision. You get what I'm saying? There's no doubt that we just don't have the time we used to have, and guess what? It's going to get worse or better, depending on where you stand. Things are gathering pace. There's a need to embrace the changes now or risk being greatly, even brutally, disrupted. Out in the Irish Sea many years ago, this happened, and it was created from a transcript that took place from the radio recordings. Have a look at this.
Again, this is the USS Montana requesting that you immediately divert your course 15 degrees to the north to avoid a collision. Over.
Please divert your course 15 degrees to the south to avoid collision.
This is Captain Hancock. You will divert your course. Over.
Negative, Captain. I'm not moving anything. Change your course. Over.
So, this is the USS Montana, the second largest vessel in the North Atlantic Fleet. You will change course 15 degrees north, or I will be forced to take measures to ensure the safety of this ship. Over.
This is a lighthouse, mate. It's your call. Hello, Captain? I think he's gone. Fair enough.
It's ridiculous, but it actually happened. That was created from the transcript that they read. I suppose what I'm saying is, you know what? These are perilous but exciting times. It's time for leadership. I think we've been overmanaged and underled for too long. HR departments, L&D people, the wonderful work that you do, I think it's undervalued very often by the people who think they're doing the real work. The work you're doing is amazing, but you need to model it out, and you need to create a platform and channels whereby you create an environment where people are not afraid to face the change, to face the wave, and actually get up, are given the freedom and the support. Their expertise is recognized, young as they may be. Might be thinking, well, they're too young. Recognize it, get behind it, support it, and set them free to do the jobs that many of us probably couldn't do anymore. But it's what will make the difference to all of our organizations. Adaptability always trumps hierarchy. So, never been a time of greater promise or greater peril. What amazing times to be working in. And let's bring it on, let's embrace it, let's make it happen. Thank you very much.